Hi folks, today I have for us two videos to take a look at. One from Travis Hines where he tries to explain the tricks in the trade of the prosecutors and gets it all wrong, and an update from our favorite fake political prisoner, Craig Hendry. But before we start today's videos, as always, a big thank you to all of my current and new channel members and subscribers. Without all of your support, I couldn't keep this channel going. So I want to make sure and thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. And if you're new to this channel, please subscribe to the page. Leave a like and a comment because it helps me with the algorithm. Don't forget to check out my second channel, NCR Movie Network, and the Craptown Florida Man Power Ranking podcast. Episode 20 is out right now. With all that being said, though, let's enjoy today's video.
All right, one trick that I watched Prosecutor. I'll just only say it's the prosecutor here in Natchitoches use on a defendant while I was watching at the city court was this defendant. First of all, I think that the prosecutor is trying to get an idea of how much the defendant is willing to give up by simply asking, by saying that he couldn't find the defendant's name, and then asking for a social security number, because he spent a couple of minutes just in open court, just like trying to ask for this defendant's name or birthday and then social security number, in which the defendant gave up readily. I could have wrote it down. I might do that at another hearing, just write down their social security numbers. But he
Now there is so much to unpack here, but let's start off with the basics. This was more than likely a preliminary hearing where the prosecutor was trying to ascertain aspects of the case. Now, this could have also just been a bench trial where a jury wasn't needed. But there's nothing inherently wrong with a prosecutor asking a defendant their name or their date of birth, especially if they're having a hard time finding their case, to make sure they are there for the right hearing. Now, something else Travis brought up is that he could have just wrote down, and that he might just write down other people's social security numbers next time he goes to court and listens to people at trial. Well, if you do that, that could be considered identity theft. I mean, Travis, you already are a person of interest when it comes to, well, a lot of shady stuff. But having other people's social security numbers would make it even worse for you. You could be looking at multiple felonies at that point.
gave that, and that's a pretty good indicator to the prosecutor that this guy is willing to give up. Okay, if he's willing to tell you his social security number, and then he finds the guy and sees that it's a marijuana charge.
Okay.
And the prosecutor is like, oh, that's no big deal. Maybe we could drop it, something like that. And so then he asks if there's anything else involved with the charge in any way. And he said, well, if it's only marijuana, we could let that slide. That's it. No big deal. And then he's, I don't know, he's like, wait a second, it looks like my clerk has found another file for you. And then she hands it to him. He opens up this folder. He is already ready to go. It took a couple of minutes to like pretend to being able to find this guy's name. He opens up this other folder and says, "Oh, this is a trespassing charge that goes along with the."
Now, Travis is trying to imply that the prosecutor is playing some kind of game with the defendant to screw him over. That's not true. Perhaps the prosecutor may have too many cases on at one time. But if he was to do something like this, and it was knowingly done, that would be a violation of the defense's constitutional rights. Not to mention, it would be an easy cause for an overturnment of the conviction if he appealed it. Travis has no idea what he's talking about. It's like he's watched too many crime shows or episodes of Law and Order or The Lincoln Lawyer and thinking this is how they do it.
The marijuana charge. Oh, this is legitimate. We can't let this slide. So then suddenly the marijuana charge was back on the table, and along with the trespassing charge, which was legitimate. And then the prosecutor is like, okay, we'll have to talk about this. Okay, and then that was that guy's situation, and I found that interesting. I mean, because the prosecutor remembers everything. Okay, everything you say can and will be used against you. Yeah, they'll remember that. And he was fully aware of this guy's charges, but you could see that he was using his prosecutor tactics to get a feel of how this guy would defend himself.
Is this just a genetic thing with you? Is it congenital? Did your mother drop you on your head when you were a baby?
And now that the guy must have felt some relief when the prosecutor only saw the marijuana charge and was willing to drop it. And he felt relief, like he was getting just that grasp of some mercy, I guess. And then suddenly the prosecutor finds a trespassing charge, and then it's all back on the table. And that's playing with the emotions of the person. He's thinking, wow, they're just gonna let it go, and then suddenly it's back on, and they're relieved, and then they're stressed again, and it's up and down. And the prosecutors love to play that game with you. They
Shenanigans.
Na 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 na.
Shenanigans.
Na 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 na.
And we're calling shenanigans, folks, because there's no way a prosecutor is going to play games with a case like that. More than likely, they saw, okay, this is probably a petty, small amount of marijuana possession. We'll just drop it. But when it comes to their attention that he's also got a trespassing case coming up, yeah, they're not going to drop it. They're probably going to proceed with it.
They do it with all kinds of people every day. It's just a part of their practice, and it might be new to people, to young guys. It'll be new, and they're feeling it. They're feeling the stress of the moment, and then the relief. So you're gonna drop it, and then suddenly, oh, there's this other thing, and then the stress is back, and it's like you just want some relief from that. But that's what they're doing in the moment. The prosecutors are playing with your emotions, and it's hard for people to get over that.
And that's all we have from the hobo lawyer. I mean, if anybody wants to take Travis seriously, be my guest. But then again, this is also Travis Hines, the same man who got into an argument with ChatGPT because it wanted to answer the questions the way he wanted them answered. So now let's take a look at Craig Henry's current update video from the Vermilion County Jail and see how they're treating this alleged political prisoner that he claims to be.
An inmate at the Vermilion County Jail. Your call has been accepted.
Hello, everybody. This is Craig Henry coming to you from the Vermilion County Jail in Indiana, where the Indiana state government has been holding me as a political prisoner since October 16th this past year.
What a crock of shit. Have you ever heard more bullshit or drivel coming from somebody who's not even the president?
They have announced their intention to hold me well into next year, even longer if they desire. Seeing as we are headed into a new year, I want to leave you all with my thoughts and perhaps a few predictions for the year to come. To start, I want to recognize that I am not the state's only political prisoner. There are a great many of us that exist in this country, from people who consume prohibited substances to those who refuse to pay extortion fees exacted upon them at the hands of the scoundrels known as government.
Translation to all of that is essentially, I'm not the only person who broke the law. I'm not the only person who got caught using illegal substances, possibly other narcotics, or drinking and driving, or any other charge like that. And I'm not the one who refused to make court-ordered payments. You see, Craig, you're not a political prisoner. You have never been a political prisoner. You broke the law. You encouraged your followers to harass and possibly stalk the individuals who were your victims in this case. You did not tell them not to do this. You encouraged it. You gave out the numbers. You gave out the emails. And you laughed about it. That's why you're in jail. That's why you were found guilty of those felony charges.
Indeed, I am one of many. The very reason I began a YouTube channel was to expose what government employees are willing to do to non-aggressive persons.
You sure about that? You sure about that? You sure about that?
Government aggresses against and trespasses against people for no reason other than those persons' refusal to obey their commands. The evidence provided on this channel, as well as thousands of other media channels, is enough to show that the fact that all men are created equal is a fact that goes unrecognized by the men and women who call themselves government. As those men and women claim for themselves the right to aggress, assault, trespass, vandalize, kidnap, and steal from those that are not a part of their government gang. If you realize this, you are aware that this is a huge problem and will only grow unless an active, concerted effort is made to prevent it. I look at my own channel as a Paul Revere-style alarm-raising media outlet.
Shenanigans.
Na 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 na.
Shenanigans.
Na 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 na.
And we're calling shenanigans, folks. Because, Craig, you are not like Paul Revere. Your channel is not a media outlet. It has been determined by a few courts already that frauditing is not legitimate media. Take, for example, the court case in Washington State, where the judge there determined that frauditors are not legitimate media. Look at what happened in Danbury, Connecticut with LIA, when his judge told him that no, he is not considered a media outlet. He's not a news source, so he does not have First Amendment journalist protections and privileges, I should say, in the courthouse. And then look again at the U.S. v. Cordova case, where the judge has determined that frauditing is not a legitimate source of news or a legitimate form of employment.
In doing this, those in power have made an active, concerted effort to stop this, and that effort has resulted in me being here in jail. I will briefly mention that I have only a limited time left to acquire an attorney to perform my appeal for me, which will cost me upwards of $30,000, and any donations are greatly appreciated. $12,000 has already been raised, and now back to my thoughts. Many people have criticized or questioned my actions in raising awareness about the government gang and the dire consequences of their actions. I have received hate, love, constructive criticisms, and physical consequences for my actions on this channel.
You don't have bad luck. The reason that bad things happen to you is because you're a dumbass.
People mention that my life would be easier if I just go along with the government gang's demands. If I would withhold my criticisms or challenges to the government's thuggish behaviors. They are perhaps right, as many small business owners in New York found in the golden age of the mafia, it is easier to pay the extortion fees than to receive a broken leg. This line of reasoning would imply that it is easier to timidly accept subservience than to claim your equality as free men and women. It is in the name of justice.
Okay, you cannot equate what the mafia did in the 30s and 40s to what is taxation. Okay? Yes, the mafia did use intimidation tactics, violence, and threats to get money from innocent people. However, when you are in a society like we are, we all agree to pay taxes, to fund our government, to take care of our people, to pay for firefighters, to pay for schools, to educate the children. It's unfair at times for how the tax brackets work, but it's not extortion. It's not intimidation. We agree to these things. You are a self-proclaimed anarchist. You want everyone to just do whatever they want, regardless of law. Because why? You don't care about anybody but yourself.
Justice that the latter is the path that I choose. Despite the broken leg, I will not bow my head to thugs. If a man says pay me or else, he is rightly viewed as a thug. If that same man pulls out a badge, people these days are all too willing to extend their wallets. In each scenario, there is a victim, the person being robbed. However, government brainwashing in public schools has convinced a great many that if they do not willingly pay the man with the badge, they are the thug.
Are you stupid or something?
And the thief, the victim. This is the slave's mentality. I was once a subscriber to these beliefs. It is easier to go along with the crowd. I no longer do. I would urge you, my audience listening, to steer clear of this slave mentality. Many will protest that they cannot afford to, that the potential punishment is too costly. To those people, I would say, take a look at your grocery bill, gas and energy bill. Look at the amount of money you pay to the government gang every year. Look at your future and ask yourself how much longer you can afford to be a slave. How much longer you can live on your knees. Probably not very much longer. And living on your knees becomes less and less comfortable all the time.
Hey, phrasing!
Stand up. Countless times history has repeated itself. To think it will be different this time would be naive. Governments get big. They issue arbitrary commands and demands. They print paper money. They go broke, run up a huge debt, try to print their way out of the debt, and usher in an era of poverty and tyranny. Each time people wax lyrical about how it's easier to comply until, of course, they are starving or rotting in cages, or in some cases killed. This is a different way of saying back the blue until it happens to you.
I'm just going to be blunt. What the hell are you talking about? Okay, so you're trying to inflate issues of reckless spending by the government into being a form of the police, mistreating you? No. Your argument is flawed. Yes, there have been times where inflation has got out of hand, but it's not because of the police.
I do not think at this point anyone can deny that the United States has followed this trend to a T. And the next year, 2025, will mark an accelerated progression towards the result. Be vigilant, stay on your feet, become a new person this year. Sincerely, Craig Hendry.
And that's the end of Craig's video. What have we learned from today's two videos? We have learned that Travis is willing to break the law in court because he thinks it's a good idea, and that Craig still doesn't understand what a political prisoner truly is, and has so gone down the rabbit hole of frauditing and, well, pure stupidity that he's encouraging others to break the law to end up in jail with him. So if you guys like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Give a thumbs up and a comment because it helps me with the algorithm. Don't forget to check out my second channel and the podcast. With all that being said, though, be well, be safe, and I'll see you guys next time. And a special thank you to all members of the news team. Without all of your support, I couldn't keep the channel going. Just want to thank you all personally from the bottom of my heart. You guys mean the world to me, and I can't thank you enough.